I took care to alter these conditions promptly, for I recognized the danger lurking in them. Luck was on my side here, inasmuch as it brought me the man who since that time has rendered innumerable services to the movement, not only as business manager of the newspaper, but also as business manager of the party. In 1914, in the war, I made the acquaintance of Max Amann, who was then my superior and is today general business director of the party. During 4 years in the war, I had occasion to observe almost continually the usual ability, the diligence, and the rigorous conscientiousness of my future collaborator. In the summer of 1921 I applied to my old regimental comrade, whom I met one day by chance, and asked him to become business manager of the movement. At that time the movement was passing through a grave crisis, and I had reason to be dissatisfied with several of our officials, with one of whom I had had a very bitter experience. A man then held a good situation in which there was also good prospects for him. After long hesitation he agreed to my request, but only on condition that he must not be at the mercy of incompetent committees. He must be responsible to one master and only one. It is to the inestimable credit of this fine business manager of the party, whose commercial knowledge is extensive and profound, that he brought order and probity into the various offices of the party. Since that time these have remained exemplary, and cannot be equaled or excelled in this by any other branches of the movement. But, as often happens in life, great ability provokes envy and disfavor. That had also to be expected in this case, and borne patiently. Since 1922, rigorous regulations have been in force, not only for the commercial construction of the movement, but also in the organization of it as such. There exists now a central filing system where the numbers and particulars of all the members are enrolled. The financing of the party has been placed on sound lines. The current expenditure must be covered by the current receipts, and special receipts can only be used for special expenditures. Thus, notwithstanding the difficulties of the time, the movement remained practically without any debts, except for a few small current accounts. Indeed, there was a permanent increase in the funds. Things are managed as in a private business. The employed personnel held their jobs in virtue of their practical efficiency, and could not in any manner take control behind their professed loyalty to the party. A good National Socialist proves his soundness by the readiness, diligence, and capability in which he discharges whatever duties are assigned to him in whatever situation he holds within the national community. The man who does not fulfill his duty in the job he holds cannot boast of a loyalty against which he himself really sins. Adamant against all kinds of outer influence, the new business director of the party firmly maintained the standpoint that there was no sinecure post in the party administration for followers and members of the movement whose pleasure is not work. A movement which fights so energetically against the corruption introduced into our civil service by the various political parties must be immune from that vice in its own administrative department. It happened that some men were taken on the staff of the paper who have formerly been adherents to the Bavarian People's Party, but their work showed that they were excellently qualified for the job. The result of this experiment was generally excellent. It was owing to this honest and frank recognition of individual efficiency that the movement won the hearts of its employees more swiftly and more profoundly than had ever been the case before. Subsequently, they became good National Socialists, and remained so, not in word only, but they proved it by the steady and honest and conscientious work which they performed in the service of the new movement. Naturally, a well-qualified party member was preferred to another who had equal qualifications but did not belong to the party. The rigid determination with which our new business chief applied these principles and gradually put them into force, despite all misunderstandings, turned out to be of great advantage to the movement. To this we owe the fact that it was possible for us during the difficult period of the inflation, when thousands of businesses failed and thousands of newspapers had to cease publication, not only in keeping the commercial department of the movement going and meet all its obligations, but also to make steady progress with the Volkisch Beobachter. At that time it came to be ranked among the great newspapers. The year 1921 was of further importance for me by reason of the fact that in my position as chairman of the party, I slowly but steadily succeeded in putting a stop to the criticisms and the intrusions of some members of the committee in regard to the detailed activities of the party administration. This was important because we could not get a capable man to take on the job if nincompoops were constantly allowed to butt in, pretending they knew everything much better, whereas in reality they had only left general chaos behind them. Then these wiseacres retired, for the most part quite modestly, to seek another field for their activities which they could supervise and tell how things ought to be done. Some men seemed to have a mania for sniffing behind everything, and were, so to say, always in a permanent state of pregnancy with magnificent plans and ideas and projects and methods. Naturally, their noble aim and ideal were always the formation of a committee which could pretend to be an organ of control in order to be able to sniff as experts into the regular work done by others. But it is offensive and contrary to the spirit of National Socialism when incompetent people constantly interfere in the work of capable persons. But these makers of committees do not take that very much into account. In those years, I felt it my duty to safeguard against such annoyance all those who were entrusted with regular and responsible work, so that there should be no spying over the shoulder, and they would be guaranteed a free hand in their day's work. The best means of making committees innocuous, which either did nothing or cooked up impracticable decisions, was to give them some real work to do. It was then amusing to see how the members would silently fade away and were soon nowhere to be found. It made me think of that great institution of the same kind, the Reichstag, how quickly they would evanesce if they were put to some real work instead of talking, especially if each member were made personally responsible for the work assigned to him. I have always demanded that, just in private life, so also in the movement, one should not tire of seeking until the best and honestest and manifestly the most competent person can be found for the position of leader and administrator in each section of the movement. Once installed in his position, he was given absolute authority and full freedom of action towards his subordinates and full responsibility towards his superiors. Nobody was placed in a position of authority towards his subordinates unless he himself was competent in the work entrusted to them. In the course of 2 years, I brought my views more and more into practice, so that today, at least as far as the highest direction of the movement is concerned, they are accepted as a matter of course. The manifest success of this attitude was shown on November 9, 1923. 4 years previously, when I entered the movement, it did not have even a rubber stamp. On November 9, 1923, the party was dissolved and its property confiscated. The total sum realized by all the objects of value and the paper amounted to more than 170,000 gold marks.